So while it's certainly true that women are driven into prostitution out of desperation, drug addiction and economic necessity, it doesn't follow that we should campaign for the decriminalisation of pimps and brothel owners who benefit from women's poverty. Rather, as trade unionists, we should be campaigning to end the austerity, poverty and benefit sanctions that may drive some women into prostitution in order to feed their family. I ask you to consider whether exchanging money for sex can really be considered work in the same way as any other job. Just because a financial transaction takes place does not mean that this is a job like any other. Ask yourself, what other jobs are there where extreme violence, sexually transmitted diseases, unwanted pregnancy and rape are common workplace hazards?
The sale of your body is not the same as selling your labour. The commodification of women in this way is against equalities, portrays us as subservient and puts us at risk of violence and, quite frankly, negates the campaigns we have engaged with across this conference. The sex industry is about inequality. To legalise the whole of the industry is to maintain a group of people in sexual services, women, men and children in the industry are at risk of violence, and that will continue as it is about power over people and making them subservient. The New Zealand model is exactly that. It is not a small cooperative model, make no mistake. Big business is operating within it. New Zealand's women groups have found exit services harder to find, and finally it has been legally rendered just another job.
Our Union of Education Workers vigorously opposes this motion. So yes, we should as trade union movement defend workers, but our core purpose is not to enable the bosses to profit from the exploitation of workers. For us, as an education workers union, we cannot support a motion that legalises what today we are standing here calling working and an industry. But let us be clear, 1/3 of women involved in prostitution entered this industry before the age of 18. Is this really an industry or whole-scale exploitation of young women and girls? As education workers, we must refute the idea that prostitution is a job like any other. We cannot ignore and sanitise the realities of violence and abuse that prostituted women suffer.
Congress, Unison has a very clear policy on this issue, which is to campaign for the Nordic Model to end prostitution. And make no mistake, delegates, it is women who are, far and away, the ones who are exploited in prostitution, and men who exploit them. 75% of women in prostitution first became involved as children. 70% of them were in care. 45% of them were sexually abused as children. Those women did not make a free choice.
Conference, it is important to note that the TUC Women's Conference voted against this motion. They decided this was not something our women wanted to campaign for. Conference, Unite takes its women's structures and representation seriously. We represent over 300,000 women, and 1/3 of our delegation here today are women. And we do not believe that when the Women's Conference makes its voice heard, that you can simply seek to bypass those structures by submitting this motion to this conference.
I'm now going to put this motion to the vote. Will all those in favour please show? Will all those against please show? The motion is overwhelmingly defeated.